Jay here, welcome to EonsOfBattle. I want to be good at 40k, and I think I'm actually not too bad, but one thing I struggle with is actually winning games. And I think that is because I so often jump from army to army to army to army and project to project to project to project. And so I have decided to actually try to commit to the Black Templars to one specific army list and see if getting the reps in will let me get a little better at Warhammer 40,000. And so I joined a 40k league, a 5-game league, and I decided to only take my Black Templars. This league was very open-ended. People could play whatever armies they wanted and change up their army list however they want, but I wanted to stick with one and see it through. I did make some slight alterations as I was playing the games to the composition, but overall, the bones of this force stayed the same, and I think it went rather well. For me, at least. I definitely think in Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, Black Templar are in a little bit of a rough spot. They're certainly not bad. I think they're probably fine. We got a really boring codex full of really bad detachments. So I have been playing Gladius, the classic Space Marine detachment, which is really good for the Black Templars. It's kind of just good for any Space Marines, but for Black Templars right now, it seems to be the best way to play them. Although there is something to that new detachment, Bastion Task Force, really good for infantry units, but I'm not taking that many infantry units. I'm going hard into Sword Brethren. And to make the Sword Brethren pop off, Gladius is the way to go. I've got 4 incredible melee units. The Sword Brethren with the Castellan and Marshal is an incredibly powerful, incredibly expensive brick of Space Marines. The Castellan and Marshal is the Black Templar version of the Captain and Lieutenant, and the Castellan, he grants reroll hit rolls of 1 or full hit rerolls, and then the Marshal grants criticals on 5-ups, which is really, really good. And then attaching them together in the Sword Brethren squad makes for the most potent damage dealing threat in my army, and I've got 2 of them. These guys are so good. The Castellan and the Marshal, between the 2 of them, they get like 20 attacks. And then the Sword Brethren's 3 attacks apiece. Games Workshop, they could have given us 4, but 3 is okay. These 2 squads do some serious damage every single game. The other 2 melee squads that I wish did a little bit more damage is the Emperor's Champion and Helbrecht. Oh, these guys. They can sometimes pop off, but in general, they don't tend to do much. They have a really hard time connecting. And I take them attached to a squad of regular old Assault Intercessors. I played one game with Crusader squads, the Black Templar troops. I don't really like them. You're forced to take them in a 10-man brick. And then half of that 10-man brick is Space Marine Scouts with a 4-up save. So they're even squishier than regular Space Marines. And then you're forced to take them in 10, so you're forced to spend 150 points. They have the Surge move, which is somewhat handy, but overall I've had better success with just regular Assault Intercessors than I have with the Black Templar specific flavored miniatures. The Emperor's Champion is very, very good. He's got the black armor and the Sword of Faith, or the fancy dancy sword. And 50% of the time, he connects and deals tons of damage. 50% of the time, he does absolutely nothing. And unfortunately, High Marshal Helbrecht is kind of in the same boat. Sometimes he does really, really well, and sometimes he just whiffs it. In terms of the rest of my force, I've been trying out vehicles. I feel like vehicles are a big thing that I am missing out with in a lot of my army constructions because I don't know how to utilize them very well. I think I'm pretty good with the infantry, but I really struggle with the tanks. In my first few games, I took Gladiator Lancers. These guys are very, very good. They get almost full hit rerolls, especially with their Laser Destroyer, which can one-shot tanks if I get lucky. I rarely get lucky, but I learned a very valuable lesson in my first game against Salamanders. Oops, all flamethrowers Salamanders. 3 big blobs of Infernus Marines, and then 2 Land Raider Redeemers, and a couple of Dreadnoughts thrown in for good measure. It was definitely a tough game. I didn't kill a whole lot, and I lost 1 unit every single turn to Overwatch in my turn, because when you get to Overwatch and just auto hit everything with all of your flame like all of your flamethrowers, and those flamethrowers are wounding one better and doing extra damage, it gets pretty actually spicy because they're flamethrowers. That was a rough game. In that game, I ended up taking a loss 50-32, and I actually ended up rematching against that guy. It wasn't a league game, we just had another friendly game, and so I got to try again. And that second game went just about as bad as the first. We ended up getting kicked out because we were like right up against closing of the store. But I wanted to try something. The gladiators were not doing a heck of a lot for me. The big problem is with the long range of the las cannon, I would keep these guys behind the rest of my army, and then my army would just get pummeled by the opponent. Meanwhile, the gladiators that I don't particularly care about were safe in the back. I decided that I wanted something in front of my army to tank a lot of that damage, literally on a tank. And so I swapped out the gladiator for 3 vindicator tanks. Vindicator tanks, they're a little smaller and squishier than some of the Primaris stuff, but they make up for it in the demolisher cannons. These guys can, like, my opponent cannot ignore these. It's a relatively close range tank, and a little bit dipping into the Black Templar stylings of this force, these guys love to be in close combat. Hilariously, their demolisher cannons are allowed to shoot in close combat, which typically blast weapons are not allowed to do. And so often I will charge these in to get them extra movement, to get them onto points, to move block my opponent's army. And it's been very, very successful. My regular squishy Marines have been lasting much, much longer into the game because my opponent has to spend the first turn or two chewing through these Vindicators. Even though I took another loss against the Salamanders, I think overall, I was really starting to come together with how this force likes to operate. My second league game was against the Necrons, brand spanking new Necrosaur Amintar in the Cursed Legion, the new, like, super scary destroyer cult detachment for the Necrons. And I would like to report I killed Necrosaur Amintar, although I also took a loss in that game. All of these forces have been either close range with the flamethrowers or literal close combat armies. And actually, Black Templar don't go into close combat armies that well because even though our melee threats are scary, they're incredibly squishy, just regular old Space Marines with no tricks of any kind to make them a little bit more survivable. 3 wounds on the Sword Brethren, which is very handy. Only 2 wounds on everybody else, but these Necrons, they're tough to crack. And so I tried to focus each squad down because I know that they have reanimation protocols. And so they can heal back pretty well if I don't manage to kill them really, really quickly in a turn or 2. The Vindicators actually did a really good job. They were, my entire infantry force got pretty much shredded, but I actually did have 2 Vindicators at the end of the game, which was very surprising. Usually these guys go down pretty quick, but they were able to tank an incredible amount of damage. In that game, I ended up taking a loss 72-50 something. It wasn't a crushing defeat. I've actually been scoring pretty well in all of my games, but boy, did it feel like a slog. An implacable legion of big metal dudes just wandering up to my army. Necrosaur Amintar has fights first, and I don't like dealing with fights first because I don't get to fight first, they get to fight first. It makes it really, really hard. Often, if I get hit, half the squad gets wiped out, which makes the inevitable punch back a lot less threatening. That's why shooting in 40k is a little bit better, because unless you get a Vindicator down to its breakpoint, which I think is 4 wounds remaining, it is still exactly as effective as always, where a regular squad of Space Marines, if I lose half the squad, half of the effectiveness is gone. A big problem with all of my characters is if the squad gets wiped out from underneath them, they essentially get turned off because all Black Templar characters are built around if this model is leading a unit, then X, Y, or Z. And so if I'm no longer leading a unit, like Helbrecht doesn't get his rerolls, the Castellan and Marshall break apart and their abilities don't stack on each other anymore. The Emperor's Champion doesn't really care. He does his own thing. So it's not as big a deal if he loses out on the squad. But if he does lose out on the squad, then he's taken all the damage instead of letting it spill onto my squishy little Space Marines. It's definitely a nail biter working with this army. I like the Vindicators moving up because that gives me a good opportunity to stage the rest of my army for a really strong melee punch turn 2 or 3. But man, it is tricky. In my third game, it was an incredibly close game against the Space Wolves, another melee-focused Space Marine army. And this was a really, really fun game because we're both playing melee Space Marines. And so our two armies just walked at each other and then smashed in the middle. Well, like, just guys are dying left and right, things are coming off the board, no shenanigans. The only shenanigans was a deep striking giant brick of Space Wolves Terminators. And I made the decision that turned out to be the right decision, completely ignore the Terminator brick. Don't go near it, don't look at it, don't shoot it, just pretend like it doesn't exist. I had to run away from it a couple of times, but overall, that was the right decision. I don't remember the final score, but I do remember winning by 2 points because I held onto a secondary mission card, stand on the home field. In turn 4, I took my little lieutenant with combi weapon, and I was going to advance him onto my home field objective, which I had lost by that point to the Terminators, but he was going to run back there and tag it. All he had to do was roll a 2 up to advance, and he failed it. So he's left there standing just off of my home field objective, but I decided not to discard this secondary because it was a guaranteed 2 points. And so if my opponent happened to get very unlucky with his card draw in the final round, I would be able to get 2 points and hopefully win. My opponent had a really bad card draw. I was able to get onto the point, score it, and it won me the game. It was a very, very clutch moment, but I ended up taking a win, finally, in this league. And it's not the first time that my Black Templar have actually won a game, but it's the first time in a long time that these guys have actually managed to win. And my Vindicators were in rare form. The Wolf Guard? No, those are the Terminators. The regular Space Wolf guys with chainswords, they were coming up my flank, and there was 10 of them with an attached character. And so my Vindicator just turned sideways and plugged the hole between 2 buildings. And so all of his guys just fell into the Vindicator, didn't manage to kill it. It drove away, revealing one of my squads of Sword Brethren who were able to just walk in and clean it up. It was beautiful. Really, really fun game. And I was actually able to take a win. And so now I'm on a winning streak. Going into turn 4, I was once again facing off against another Space Marine army, this time Dark Angels, and it was the detachment that can give Dark Angel infantry -1 to be wounded, which was really annoying because I'm playing Black Templars, and so I don't get Oath of Moment, I get Templar Vows. And so I get +1 to wound against things that are equal to or greater than the strength of my melee weapons. Really, really nice, really, really powerful, but essentially turned off by this army. But that was okay, we still slugged it out. Not a crazy amount of units actually died. It was pretty even back and forth, but I was definitely losing out on secondaries and on primary because I think I went second. I kept getting onto points and then just getting killed off of them, and then not being able to steal those points back. A lot of the Dark Angels units, the Inner Circle Companions are really, really good. I was very jealous of the Dark Angels army and its shenanigans and its ability to make its units really pop off. If only there was a Black Templar detachment that was really good to use with Black Templar. But unfortunately, no such thing exists. And so that game was actually a lot closer than it felt like. 78-87. We scored a lot of points somehow, even though we didn't kill all that much. But the Black Templar had once again taken a loss. I scored a lot of points. I was able to do all of the things I wanted to do. I just was unable to kill my opponent fast enough, and I was unable to control the board. My opponent was pretty much in control of most of the objectives for most of the game, but I was getting pretty lucky on secondary and scoring enough primary that we were somewhat neck and neck, with me always just a little bit behind all game. But eventually at the very end, I just could not quite pull it off. A lot was riding on the final game of the league, because if I only win one game of the entire league, I don't know if that, I feel like I did learn a heck of a lot, but I feel like I wouldn't have much to show for it if I only got one singular win. And so going into the final game, it was against another close combat Space Marine army, but this time it was against the Emperor's Children. I have faced the Emperor's Children many times because Sean has an Emperor's Children army, but never as the Black Templars. And so I was very intrigued to see how this game went. And another thing I find intriguing is all of the amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we have all kinds of hobby goodies, Grey Tide Studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basin cork, and we've got glue, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. New in May, we have created the Cyber City, a set of terrain perfect for any fast-paced war game. These beautiful gleaming buildings are the picture of future affluence, ready to be fought over and on top of. These pieces were designed to give plenty of line-of-sight blocking terrain, with lots of room on top for miniatures to stand on. And with a stacking system, you can build your boards up into the air with lots of catwalks and staircases to let you battle in the third dimension. To sprinkle around the city, there's also some sci-fi accessories like line-of-sight blocking hologram projectors, rooftop doors and computer terminals, crates and snack machines. Everything a future battlefield needs. This set of terrain was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. My last game against Emperor's Children went pretty darn good. I was tabled, but I won on points. 52-30. I was able to score basically every secondary I pulled. I was able to kill the things that I absolutely needed to kill. I was able to stand on the objectives I needed to stand on. My Vindicators were in rare form, surviving almost the entire game until eventually getting wiped out towards the end. I was able to kill Fulgrim without too much trouble. The only thing that really kept me down was the Noise Marines. Noise Marines are really good at killing Space Marines, and they just have to see him. And so they can shoot him and they ignore his cover, and they just, he had 2 Noise Marine squads, and they were just dropping my Space Marines like nothing. It took almost no effort to pick up a Space Marine squad, but it doesn't matter because I won the game. My Black Templars are here to play the game. They are here to kill and to murder. I got to kill some very cool units. I killed Necrosaur Amintar in my second game. I killed Vulcan Histan. I didn't kill the Lion. The Lion killed me quite badly, but I was also able to kill Fulgrim. Like this, I was able to draw some really cool blood. One change that I did make in that last game is instead of bringing the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, who's now gone up to 85 points, I now have in this list a second squad of Suppressors. Suppressors are kind of a weird unit for the Space Marines. They're pretty bad. They're 2 wounds of toughness 4. Like they're just regular Space Marines in a 3-man squad, but they have movement 12. They actually have a rule called suppression on their guns, which is very interesting. And most importantly, they have Deep Strike. And so I've always kept 1 in Deep Strike reserve until I draw a card that says be somewhere on the battlefield and like do an action to score a point. And at that point they drop in, and they have scored me points every single game. I feel like 1 squad of these guys is an auto include, but the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, he's very good, but I haven't really been finding him effective in my games. And so I've dropped him in favor of a second Suppressor squad. And these guys start on the board, typically to do actions and secondaries like the first squad, but I leave these guys in Deep Strike, and then these guys start on the board to actually try and take advantage of the suppression ability. Since the League, I've actually played a game where these guys got to suppress a Knight Porphyrion, which was really cool. It didn't end up helping, but it was just fun that this literal Titan was now hitting at -1 because they got hit by these little guys. I like them a lot, and I've really been enjoying them in my list. But speaking of that list, I'm pretty happy with this. I like it a lot. I enjoy playing it. I know exactly what it does. And so this is kind of the army that I have waiting by the door. If I'm gonna play a game of 40K, I can just grab this and take it. But when I opened the 40K app, because there were some changes I would like to make, I would like a melee unit. Like I would like either Helbrecht or Emperor's Champion to be as good as these Sword Brethren squads. And so I was thinking, you know what? Blade Guard veterans. Those guys are so good. They got a 4-up invuln, they got a boatload of wounds, they're really good in close combat. Helbrecht with a bunch of those guys would be phenomenal. I can't believe I haven't thought of this before. And so I opened the Warhammer app and I made 2 horrible discoveries. The first discovery was that Helbrecht cannot attach to the sword Blade Guard veterans. Nothing can attach to Blade Guard veterans. Nothing in the Black Templar Codex is allowed to attach to Blade Guard veterans because we have Sword Brethren, so they're only allowed to attach to Sword Brethren. But why? And the reason that I thought I could do that is because guess where you can buy Blade Guard Veteran? In the Black Templar Combat Patrol. They come in our starter box, but nothing in our army can attach to them. So I would have to buy vanilla Space Marine characters to attach to that squad. I can't use my cool Black Templar toys. I don't get why the Black Templar Codex is so prescriptive. Why can't Helbrecht lead the Heroes of the First Company? Actually, he's not even allowed to lead that unit. He can't attach, I don't think they're called Heroes of the First Company. It's just like the Heavy Bolter, Banner Bearer, and like those special Space Marines that are their weird other unit. They're not even good, but I'm not allowed to do it, so I can't try it out and see what happens. Really annoying. I was like, they were in my shopping cart, Blade Guard veterans, and then I found out that I'm not allowed to attach them to what I want to attach them to. I could take them with, what's that chaplain-y guy? The one who grants fights first. I could do that, but that's what any vanilla Space Marine army can do. I wanted to Black Templar Z it up. And since I can't do that, I'm just not gonna do it. But the other horrifying discovery I made is that in my army list, there was a squad of Outrider bikes that I forgot existed. And so for the entire league, I've been 80 points down with my army. I don't know how I forgot that I just added some bikes, but yeah, I was actually playing at a deficit for the entire league, and I think I performed admirably. Now that I have those 80 points freed up, I've made some changes. Number one, dropping this guy got me 10 points by swapping in these, but now I can actually have room for another gladiator. And so the gladiator does help out with just dealing some really, really good damage to high toughness targets that I don't necessarily want my little guys to deal with. I might swap this out for the Ballistus Dreadnought. I'm still tinkering around with exactly what I want those final points to include. And I don't think 80 points is a lot of points. That is a very silly mistake. But I don't think it really changed my games that much. But I am excited to see what the Black Templar can do at full 2,000 point strength power, because it is different. I have since played another game, and having one more tank in the list does help out. I don't really feel like transports are the move. The 40k game board is so small, I never really had much trouble getting my guys into close combat with what I wanted to, unless I failed charges, which seem to happen every single game. But yet, I shouldn't be failing 5-inch charges with the command point reroll. That is just bad luck. That is not bad generalship. But overall, I'm very, very satisfied with my Black Templar. The league was so much fun. All of my opponents were stellar and awesome with really, really cool armies that I feel very happy that I got to play against. And overall, my Black Templar are going strong, and I am looking forward to 11th edition. Hopefully by then, we'll have a Black Templar detachment that is actually worth playing. But until then, I'm making it work. Thanks for watching.